moves.
He did the wrong thing. That's the right thing.
The Wish House. A grim, empty husk standing in the center of the forest world. A haunting relic of the Order's past. In Silent Hill 4, Henry visits this terrible place twice, each time learning more of its secrets and its part in Walter's history. As part of his role as the receiver of wisdom, Henry comes to the forest world and the orphanage as a witness to see the death of the 17th victim. Yet, as I've discussed in past videos, the sacraments as a whole, and many of its pieces, make little sense, and don't seem to fit into any sort of logic. Why, for instance, if Henry is meant to be witness to Jasper's death, would the orphanage be locked out to him? Why would Walter want to keep him out? It is important to remember that these worlds exist in Walter's mind, and like any human consciousness, it is full of contradictions and subconscious desires. Henry is meant to see the deaths of Walter's victims, and in other worlds, the environment acts as a deterrent to keep him from stopping Walter. But in the forest world, Jasper is a willing participant. Yet the orphanage is still locked to us, and the key to open it traps Henry in a never-ending cycle of forest pathways. There's a part of Walter that doesn't want anyone to see inside the orphanage, a part of him that doesn't want to return to the nightmare of his childhood. The key is bloody and rust-covered, hidden beneath a tree with roots that resemble human hands. This could simply be a horrifying image, or a hint that the real-world key may have been buried with the corpse of the person who held it. Furthermore, the spade used to obtain the key is also covered in blood. It's possible that the real Walter went to great lengths to ensure no one would enter the Wish House again. Jasper isn't the only victim killed at the Wish House. In fact, the first of Walter's victims died here, Jimmy Stone, head of the Order of Volteal and the man responsible for the Wish House. It says a lot that Walter's first choice of victim is the man responsible for his childhood, and he's killed execution style by a gunshot to the back of the head in the very orphanage where he tortured so many children. The second to die here was George Roston, victim number 6, Jimmy's second in command. It was he who instructed Walter in the ways of the sacraments and placed Volteal in Walter's unconscious mind to allow the 21 sacraments to take place. The meaning of this is vague. Did he implant psychic abilities in the boy? Did he literally place a piece of the monster into him? It's left vague, but either way, he was beaten to death with an iron pipe in the house's underground altar. Unlike Jimmy, George does not appear as a ghost in the game, but it's possible he's featured as a different creature. There is a doll that appears in the burned ruins of the Wish House when Henry later returns, and near it is a mysterious message telling him what he must do to move forward. The 5 pieces of the doll spread through the forest world are hidden in darkness and must be found. When returned to the house, they form the burned husk of a priest, who reveals the hidden passage into the underground altar, which is where George was killed. The clothes are very similar to Anglican priest outfits. The doll appears to wear a zucchetta, a skull cap that reflects the status of a clergy member based on the color of the cap. General priests and deacons wore black, and though this one is too burnt to recognize the color, it could have been black originally. He also has a scarf around his shoulders that resembles a tippet, another indicator of authority, and the Christian cross hangs from his neck. George Roston's silhouette resembles the feature of the doll, and it's possible he masqueraded as a Christian in order to pass more easily through normal society and find more victims for the cult. The dismembered doll may imply Walter dismembered him after death. and his soul being trapped in a doll is a punishment for putting Walter's head with Volteal. If true, it's a far more insidious and personal punishment than simply becoming a tormented ghost like so many others. Or perhaps it could be related to George's role in teaching the sacraments to Walter. In some way, Walter may still respect the man for giving him the power he needed to obtain his mother. So instead of becoming a tormented ghost, his soul is imprisoned in the doll. It doesn't seem like a better fate, but perhaps to Walter it was. It all depends on whether Walter's actions reflect anger towards the man or mercy. These two weren't the only Order members to fall victim to Walter. They were the earliest and most personal. Walter had a close relationship to them for years, living under their roof, suffering their tutelage. But later on, he also targets Toby Archbold. Archbold had no connections to Walter besides generally being in the Order. He was a member of the Mother sect rather than the Volteal sect. When Ralston and Stone died, Archbold saw his chance to gain more power for his sect. 3 years after their deaths, he reopened the Wish House. It is then, and only then, he becomes part of Walter's plans. The man follows him all the way to Mexico to kill him. Now it becomes more apparent why many of Walter's victims were chosen, not for the reasons given by the sacraments, which are incredibly vague and somewhat random. Consider another victim, Sharon Blake. She lost family members to the Order and went to Silent Hill to find them. She wandered the forests nearby and was drowned in the lake by Walter. Why? A woman with no connection to him, besides the fact she was in these woods looking for someone and found Walter's horrible past. Jimmy, George, Toby, Jasper, and Sharon. All victims chosen for their proximity to or relationship with the Wish House. Jasper, too, seems random until you consider this. While he knew earlier victims, there was no reason for Walter to specifically seek him out. In fact, Jasper seeks out Walter and then kills himself. Walter couldn't have predicted or presumed this would be the case, and someone planning a magic ritual around specific deaths would need to be far more careful about planning those deaths rather than relying on luck. But Jasper makes the choice to come to the Wish House, sealing his fate. Walter would never have let him leave. The Wish House is his dark past, his terrible secret, his weakness. It represents the time of his life when he was at his lowest and most vulnerable, unable to stop others from hurting him. It represents his humanity. Throughout the woods, you can find strange, bloody letters which Henry can't read, but later Eileen can. Read all together, they are a diary written from young Walter's point of view, depicting the terrible abuses he suffered and the loneliness he felt. His sorrow is quite literally written across the landscape, centered around the Wish House. His unconscious pain so horrible, he can't keep it all hidden away. This is, in fact, where we first meet young Walter, the boy who in many ways never really escaped this place. He appears throughout the game from this point on, but in Walter's mind, in his subconsciousness, his child self was trapped in the forest world, in the Wish House, surrounded by memories of pain. That is why the key is buried and covered in blood. That is why anyone who comes close to the house is killed, why the stones are covered in his memories. It represents his lowest point and his worst memories, and he wants no one to see it. And yet, Henry does see it. Henry and Eileen are allowed to read the diaries, to enter the house, to see the nightmare, because subconsciously there is a part of Walter that wants to be understood, that wants to be seen, and he wants the Mother Reborn and the Receiver of Wisdom to be the ones to do it. He wants them to understand what he's doing and why. When Jasper kills himself, he sets himself alight with a candle. When the player returns to the Wish House, it's gone, burnt down. Jasper's corpse must have set the fire, which then spread and overtook the building. Which begs the question, if Walter hated the place, why couldn't he have torched it himself? Perhaps is there a part of him that still sees it as home, that still, in spite of all the pain, can't stand to see it destroyed. The Wish House is a beautiful and terrible representation of Walter Sullivan's many facets, his humanity and monstrosity, and the horrors of his mind. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Apologies that the transitions were a little jumpy today. I think my buttons are off. I'm gonna have to check my hotkeys and see what's up there. But thank you all for joining me. This week's topic was chosen by our members by a pretty heavy margin. I think everyone wanted to hear about the Wish House, and I had a great time thinking and writing about it. It really does reveal a lot about Walter, I think. There's so much that's revealed in Silent Hill 4 that comes from the forest world, the diary entries, the young Walter, things that I hadn't really considered before. And it does, to me, seem like many of the victims that died there because they were there, because they had to do with the place. I don't think Archibald would have been targeted if not for the fact he reopened the place. Jasper might have gotten away if he hadn't returned to the place, that kind of thing. My opinions about Silent Hill 4 in general, I think, are far more transformative than other Silent Hill games. I see the game in a very different light. I think the sacraments are basically a lie. I think that a lot of it is just kind of made up to make him kill people because the Order benefits from that. And I really do think it's part of that is the Wish House and the deaths he commits here. You know, they say that... Oh, I apologize. Is the music loud? Last time the music seemed so quiet I couldn't hear it, so I put it up a little louder, but perhaps this time it's too loud. I'll have to double check and listen. Apologies for that. Is that better? If that's good, then I will leave it at that for next time. Okay, we'll leave it there for next time. The letters that Walter wrote are gibberish Greek. I believe they are Greek, which I say that because they resemble the lettering that are on the wings of the incubus, which has also been confirmed to be Greek. And I don't know any Greek, but it would be very interesting to see if those are actually words or if they did just write it that way because it looked interesting and would keep people from being able to just read the stone on their own. They had to have Eileen. Thank you all for joining me. We have lots of new folks today. Thanks so much for coming to hang out, and lots of old folks as well. I saw some members. Thank you for supporting the channel. Jeff, Handsome, Ratch, Billy, thank you so much. If we have any more questions, feel free to ask, or else I'm just going to keep rambling. An interesting touch with the whole Christian cover-up thing. Jimmy Stone actually has an ancestor named Reverend Stone, created by Tom Waltz in the comics, who was a Christian preacher. I have not read that comic. I don't know what his story is, but I think it's interesting that they seem to have that connection where he was a Christian priest in the past. The doll seems to be dressed up as an Anglican priest. I think that the church, or the orphanage, was probably presented as a Christian organization to outsiders, but on the inside they were learning something else, which is, I think, backed up by that article written by the guy in the ceiling, cannot remember his name, where he says instead of teaching them Christian values, they're teaching heathen values. I think that is, I think that kind of reflects the fact that maybe they were presented as Christian and then on the inside they weren't for real. I think the 21 sacraments are real, but Walter was poisoned with the idea paradise would be brought about, and that would be his paradise, which is to have his mom back. As possible. I don't think that the 21 sacraments are fake so much as I think they're kind of a lie. I made a video, the Silent Hill Symbolism Magic video, where I compared how the resurrection ritual and the sacraments had some things in common. And I think that the 21 sacraments are a bastardization of the resurrection ritual used on Mary in Silent Hill 2, possibly because the cult were trying to influence Walter to kill people, because it seems as if the other side and the magic of the town benefits from death. It seems as if their power spreads when people die, when tragedy happens, because then the other world spreads, that kind of thing. So that's my personal theory. Hello, Pablo. Welcome. Why is Henry best Silent Hill boy? Oh, I've talked about that so much. I love him so much. How the hell did they get away with this? Wouldn't the orphanage have inspections by officials, or is it all down to bribes? Well, Toby Archbold was on the Silent Hill City, like, town board. I think that the cult was very much built into Silent Hill's infrastructure and had enough control over them that they could do what they wanted, which is probably why the newspaper article was written, was because nobody in power was doing anything. This journalist was trying to bring it to people's eyes, and eventually it did get stopped because everybody was just killed by various people. Let's see. Yeah, we never really learned anything else about the other children in the place. What about the article in the junk about Walter? Okay, so there is an article in Silent Hill 2 about Walter that's a little confusing, and I think has led to, possibly because, again, that was written in Silent Hill 2, they hadn't even started a Silent Hill 4 until much later, and I think that they maybe changed some things in between those two. It's kind of implied in the article that Walter was, like, crazy and he was seeing a red devil. I've always understood it as being the person that went to jail for being Walter Sullivan and committed suicide in jail was the one written about in the article, and I don't think Walter ever went to jail, because his real body is in the apartment. I think he, using his powers, he controlled someone, he had a scapegoat, the Red Devil, possibly, Jimmy Stone's called the Red Devil, Pyramid Head is a Red Devil. I don't know. It's a little confusing. I think it's a case of story ideas and plot developments changing over the years. Yes, basically it works, but it doesn't do what Walter thinks it'll do. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's I'm from Greece and I can say the Greece words don't mean anything. Okay, cool. It probably was just because aesthetically, to a audience that doesn't read Greek, it looks interesting. Yeah, I really do think that the 21 Sacraments are something that the Order kind of cobbled together to have him kill all these people and convince him that it will do something that he wants, when really it's just empowering the Order. I've heard the theory the Order... hello, Akatsuki. Where did it go? The chat keeps jumping. The Order, or the sect that used the sacraments, which is the Voltiel sect, wanted Walter to use them on the Mother Stone near the Wish House. Interesting. I'm still trying to figure out the Mother Stone, because you're right, it's called the Mother Stone. Walter has a whole thing with his mom, and all of his memories are written on the stones in the forest. Something about the stones in that forest are important. I haven't quite dug into that very deeply yet, but it's interesting to consider what their final plan was, and Dahlia's possible involvement, because there is a letter in the house that is implied to be from someone else in the Order saying, have you found Alessa yet? How is Walter progressing? There's ideas that it could be Claudia or Dahlia. I lean Dahlia, because Dahlia influenced Walter and told him about the sacraments, and there's questions like, if they're looking for Alessa, she knows where Alessa is. That, I think she's referring to Cheryl, because they don't have a name for Cheryl. They don't, all they know is that part of Alessa's soul is gone, and so I would presume they were looking for it. That's what I think that letter meant, but some people take it to mean Claudia when she was looking for Heather. I just think it makes more sense with Dahlia, but it's interesting for sure. Yes, that's always been, Arno says, I thought they were a backup plan to ensure God's birth. Yeah, I definitely think it was Dahlia's backup plan that she had. I think, honestly, Claudia, Alessa, Walter, I think were all plans, because she was trying to get Alessa to do it. She, I think Claudia she was given books or something by someone and influenced a little bit to see the world as evil. I mean, they were trying to influence all the kids that way, but clearly they had specific kids they saw as promising that were made focus of the cult. What do you think of the fact a lot of Silent Hill characters get interesting names, while Joseph Schreiber, the journalist, just gets a name that means writer? It means they ran out of ideas. Nah, they probably just, they needed something. for a name, you know. The chat's moving so fast, I'm having to catch up. Somebody mentioned Ragnarok's awesome channel. He and I have chatted a little bit. You should definitely watch his videos. He does a lot of symbolism and story plot introspection on video games. I think Walter had someone wall up his corpse. Oh, for sure. Someone had to have put up the wall and made sure the bot, you know, that but I think it was a case of, again, psychic control over folks. Whether it was the same person who took the fall for him, possibly, but I don't think so, because there's an article or something that says a week or so after he committed suicide in the prison, real Walter was seen walking around. So I think it must have been someone else. Maybe even Frank. Maybe Frank's weird because Walter's been in his head. Because he would have had to have someone that makes sense. He would have had to have someone in the apartments to influence, to keep people from messing with his apartment, to keep it empty for when he needs to give it to someone. And Frank is a little weird and a little off. He dies in the bad ending, is specified to have died in the bad ending. I like that idea. I bet you he was influenced. Hi, Helena. I hope you're having a good day. Let's see. I think Walter's the original plan considered Dahlia has that moment. Yeah, I think as fans we tend to think of him as the backup, but timeline-wise he would have been first, for sure. Which definitely makes more sense, I think. I wonder if there's a real mastermind or a bunch of different factions. I think there's a bunch of different factions. It's kind of basically made canonical, because they talk about the Mother Cult having their own ideas. They have the Volteal Cult. I think to a certain extent, Dahlia was running the ship, and then when she passed, it kind of fractured a bit. I don't know that I don't think Claudia really brought them together, because she seemed to be doing her own thing. Vincent, to a certain extent, I think, brought them together, but then he died. And you have just the different sects. And then, of course, by 4-ish, by Homecoming, I guess, the last of them are basically dead. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this topic. Thanks for joining me. If you have any more questions, go ahead and ask. I'm going to go to the closing screen just so we make sure to thank all of our members and patrons. If you want to be a member or a patron, you can do so for as little as 99 cents a month. You get lots of cool bonuses. I just posted a new members-only video yesterday. You get access to years of essays and fiction and stuff that I've posted online. Tons of stuff. I really try to make it worthwhile. Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll have another one next week. Members get to pick what that will be, so I'll post that in the Discord. Which, speaking of, if you want to hang out with cool folks, I do have a Discord. The link is in the description, and we're watching Castle in the Sky tomorrow from Miyazaki, which will be fun. I'll be doing a video on that next week, too, I hope. Comparing it to a video game. That'll be fun. Oh, thank you, Tom. I'm glad you like my videos. And thank you, Phil. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. Lots of new faces today. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. I will be streaming Shin Megami Tensei in just a minute. If you've never heard of it or seen it, it's basically what if Silent Hill were an RPG. It's very fun. I really enjoy it. So hopefully I will see some of y'all there. And more more Silent Hill stuff probably next Tuesday, I think. This one was a little late because I've been a little busy. But yeah, thanks again, and I will see you guys next time. And thank you, Jimmy. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nubius, Amy, Phantom, Zako, of course, Lisa, Sagittarius, Severin Drax. Thank you all so much for showing up today. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.